They ain't my kids. There's somebody else's.
Hey, does anybody want coffee? Who wants coffee? I just made a fresh pot of coffee. Does anybody want coffee?
You spent 5 years in prison for failing to pay child support for the defendant, Ms. Sears' son, Dylan.
That's right.
Mr. Manser, you are not
Oh, God.
his father.
5 years in prison.
You know who his father is.
Yes, I talk to him still.
She should be convicted of some crime.
I should not. I didn't.
That
Mr.
is
Manser.
fraud.
He spent 5 years in prison for not paying child support for the child that's not his. And no remorse whatsoever on our side to say, oh, I'm in the wrong here. She's saying, no, I should not go to prison.
I have been married for 51 years. Got 2 sons, 42 and 40. Needed to take a test to see if any of us had a kidney good enough for my brother. Found out something interesting. They ain't my kids. There's somebody else's. Of course, the only good thing is, I know it's not my fault. I do wish I knew who the real fathers were. And they ain't the same. She was bopping a couple of different guys. She couldn't tell me. I'd probably forgiven her. Hell, boys, y'all need to go get your own paternity test. You can't tell by looking who's the daddy, unless you're looking down at the genetic level. I've been in court thousands of times in paternity suits, and 4 out of 5 times, guy says he ain't the daddy, he's right. And the genetic test is the only way to prove it for sure. These women are hopping everything that looks fun. You thought you liked sex. You ain't nothing. Well,
When women are settling or they are about to settle, they look for a guy that is able to provide, that's secure, in short. But are they sexually attracted to these secure guys? They are not. They are not. You should hear what the sprinkle lady talks about, and now you understand as why that is. So they'll sleep with the other guys, and then they will light on the guy that's secure, because the other guys that they are attracted to, they are people that want to provide or raise their children. So they want to have babies for these guys, and then yet not want to marry these guys, because these guys can't provide the lifestyle that they want. Sprinkle.
Crazy. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. I've been telling these folks, man, you need to get your life together.
I guess that pretty well completes that story. I'll go home, start drafting up some divorce papers. I mean, I stayed with her for the sake of the children and the grandchildren, now the great-grandchildren. But they ain't no kin of mine.
DNA tests should be mandatory for every child born, regardless of marital status. Well, this is a hard one. So, fundamentally, I agree with this. And we all know the big study that just came out, it all talked about how of the men who question their paternity, like 75% of them were raising kids that were not theirs. That's a big deal. And I would suggest that anybody who is put into a position of child support, this should be a mandatory thing. The only part that I just struggle with is I really don't want the Gov to have, I gotta put my shoes on, I really don't want the Gov to have basically an entire list, a full database of everybody's DNA, especially my children's. It's the only thing I struggle with. But I think if you are going to be court ordered to pay money, men should have that option. Now, should it be forced? Should it be optional? Oof, there's a lot of slippery slopes when it comes to privacy and your individual liberty and your children's privacy. But fundamentally, I do agree, there has got to be some kind of proof if you are going to indebt a man for 18 years, potentially more, because a lot of these child support orders go far into college years, depending on if they're full-time students and all that kind of stuff. So fundamentally, yes, I agree. But there's some of the details that I'm just struggling with a little bit.
You are shaking.
I know.
I feel your nervousness from here. Are you okay?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Mr. Benning, you are not the father. You said earlier that if Robin was not your biological child, it causes you to doubt whether or not you truly are the biological father of Jermaine Benning Jr. The court wants to make sure when you leave here you have the whole truth. You are not the father.
What the?
So, these are his children and he's not fathered any of them. Who was fathering all those children? So, the man has held these kids. He's fallen in love with them, and then imagine they end up telling you that they are not yours.
A DNA test confirmed that the child is not mine. I make a lot more money, so do I have a moral obligation to pay child support? My ex demanded child support for a kid that is not mine. My mother and sister are on their side. Some years ago, I dated a girl. The relationship was bad. She was very controlling and abusive. It ended up really bad, and we broke up. I kept going on with my life. And after some years, I got a decent job. I made enough to meet all my needs, have a comfortable life, and make some savings. The thing is, a couple of months after getting my job, my ex contacted me. She first asked me to talk. I believed that she may want to reconnect or something, but she showed up with a 5-year-old child claiming he was my son and demanding child support. I didn't believe her, but the child's age matched the time since we cut contact. I got advice from a lawyer, a friend of mine, to try to solve this out of court. I offered to take responsibility, pay all the costs, and be an active part of the kid's life, but only after a DNA test. Everyone was okay with this except for my ex. She acted offended and demanded that I just give her the money she deserved. She used all the excuses she could. She even contacted my family to tell them I was trying to avoid taking responsibility for her child. When she ran out of excuses and the DNA test was finally made, surprise, I'm not the father. She was so mad with the result and cried about the money, saying it was unfair and she deserved it. But she didn't accomplish anything. Moving on to last week, there was a little party at my parents' house. My brother, a friend, and I were talking, and my brother started to joke about the situation with my ex. My friend and I started to joke about it too. Some of our comments were a little dark and bad, but we were far away from the rest of the people. Literally, we were on the opposite side of the house, and nobody else could hear us. At least, that was what we thought. We were laughing like crazy when my sister appeared very angry and pushed me against the wall. She spied on us and heard our conversation, and she was really mad. She started to yell at us about how horrible people we were for mocking a poor woman. A few hours later, when the party ended, she asked me to go to the kitchen with our parents, and she started to say how awful I was for the previous situation. Apparently, my ex had been in contact with her, and she believed her version, and that was her way of having an intervention. My brother and I were like, "Are you serious?" When she started to say how I forced my ex into being a single mother and that I had the moral obligation to help her, my dad only said that we were maybe being too cruel and making jokes about her, but that I wasn't responsible for that kid. My mom then surprised all of us when she said, "Even if the kid is not yours, you are making more than enough money to support that child. You should have helped her." Since then, I've been receiving texts. My dad and my brother are on my side, saying I'm not responsible for her, but my sister is telling me how horrible I am for ruining their lives. My mom only said, "It's your decision, and I respect it. I'm just very disappointed that you ended up being so selfish."
Your brother is right and your brother is right. You're not responsible. It's not your kid. Don't do it.